Good afternoon. This is Kathleen Drew, Chair of the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, and bringing to order our regular monthly meeting, Tuesday, October 18th. Ms. Grantham, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Department of Commerce.
Kate Kelly, present.
Department of Ecology.
Eli Levitt, present.
Department of Fish and Wildlife. Department of Natural Resources.
Lenny Young, present.
Utilities and Transportation Commission.
Stacy Brewster, present.
Local government and optional state agencies. For the Horse Heaven Project, Department of Agriculture. Benton County, Ed Brost. For the Badger Mountain Project, Douglas County. For the Watoma Solar Project, Benton County, Dave Sharp.
Dave Sharp, present.
Washington State Department of Transportation.
Paul Gonseth, Washington State Department of Transportation, present.
The Assistant Attorney General.
Hi, this is John Thompson, present.
Administrative Law Judges, Adam Torum.
This is Judge Torum. If you can hear me, I'm present.
Thank you. Laura Bradley.
This is Judge Bradley, present.
Dan Gerard.
Judge Gerard, present.
For EFSEC staff, Sonia Bumpus.
Sonia Bumpus is present.
Amy Hofkemeyer.
Amy Hofkemeyer, present.
Amy Moon.
Amy Moon, present.
Patty Betts. Stu Henderson.
Stu Henderson here.
Joan Owens. Dave Walker.
Dave Walker, present.
Sonia Scavland.
Sonia Scavland, present.
Lisa Massingale. Sarah Randolph.
Sarah Randolph, present.
Sean Green.
Sean Green, present.
For the operational updates, Kittitas Valley Wind Project. Wild Horse Wind Power Project.
If Jennifer can't make it, I will speak on her behalf.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry to interrupt before you finish the roll call. This is Megan Salome for Council for the Environment. I think I missed when you called me.
Oh, I haven't gotten to you yet, but I could mark you off already. No worries.
Sorry.
I just won't call again.
I thought you started the agenda. Okay.
Oh, no. Thank you, Megan. Grays Harbor Energy Center.
This is Chris Sharon for Grays Harbor Energy Center.
Thank you. Chehalis Generation Facility.
Stefano Schnicker, present.
Columbia Generating Station.
Marshall Schmidt, present.
Columbia Solar.
Owen Hurd, present.
Chair, there is a quorum for the regular council and for the Watoma Solar Council. Thank you.
I believe there's also a quorum for the Horse Heaven Council.
I did not hear Derek Sanderson or Ed Burrows. If we
but
want to
we
give
have
them
5 out of 8 members. Ms. Bumpus, will you perhaps verify that for me?
I think I would defer to John Thompson.
Okay.
John, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I'm just trying to recall who. I think we're missing.
We're missing Fish and Wildlife, Mr. Livingston, and Derek Sanderson, and Ed Brost. So that makes us 5 of 8 from my count.
Okay. Yeah, so quorum is just a majority of the voting members.
Okay.
So.
Then that is correct. I apologize. There is a quorum.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay, so moving on to the proposed agenda. The agenda is before you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Lenny Young, so moved.
Second?
Kate Kelly, second.
Go ahead, Ms. Kelly.
Kate Kelly, second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the proposed agenda? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed to approving the agenda? The agenda is approved. Moving on to the monthly minutes from September 20th, 2022. One set of minutes today to review. The minutes package is in front of us. Is there a motion to approve the September 20th minutes?
This is Stacy Brewster. I'll move we approve the September 20th, 22 meeting minutes.
Thank you. Second?
Lenny Young, second.
Thank you. I do have one change that I saw in the minutes on page 35, line 17. Instead of the word 17 and 18, were board, it should be, we're happy you are aboard. Any other changes to the minutes, corrections?
Chair Drew, I noticed one correction for page 14, line 21. It says implementation of the omissions allowance auction process.
Oh.
I believe that should be emissions.
And that's again page 14. Okay. Line
21.
Oh, okay. Yes, it says emissions on line 19, but yes, line 21, it should be emissions instead of omissions. Yes. Thank you. Any others? Hearing none with those two amendments, all those in favor of the minutes as amended, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? The minutes as amended are approved. Okay. Moving on to our project updates. Kittitas Valley Wind Power Project. Is Mr. Melbardis with us?
I am. Good afternoon, Chair Drew, EFSEC Council and staff. For the record, this is Eric Melbardis with EDP Renewables for the Kittitas Valley Wind Power Project. And as typical, I have nothing non-routine to report for the period.
Thank you. Wild Horse Wind Facility.
Hi, everyone. This is Sarah Randolph, and I am filling in for Jennifer Galbraith. She is in the field today. There are no non-routine updates for September for Wild Horse.
Thank you. Moving on to the Chehalis Generation Facility, Mr. Schnitger.
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, EFSEC, Council, and staff. For the reporting period on September 20th, Chehalis Generation Facility received a noise complaint. On investigation, the cause of the noise was determined to be a leak crossover pipe on unit. That unit was shut down so repairs could be made. It was restarted with no. That, I have nothing else non-routine to report for the period.
Great, thank you. Moving on to the Grays Harbor Energy Center.
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, council, staff. This is Chris Sharon, the plant manager from Grays Harbor Energy Center. So the only non-routine item this month is our relative accuracy test audit and H2SO4, SO2 source test. That was actually a retest, and we submitted those results to EFSEC and ORCA, which is routine. But the H2SO4, SO2 results again had the an unexplainably high ratio, greater than 1. That ratio should be less than 1. And when this report was generated, we weren't sure why, and we're working with our test contractor to review the unexpected data again. In the meantime, our contractor has let us know that as part of their investigation, and we pass this now. I'm passing along information we shared with EFSEC staff this week. As a result of their investigation, they determined that the SO2 and H2SO4 samples were swapped, causing the ratio to be backwards or high instead of lower than 1. So the investigation's still ongoing as to how the mix-up occurred, and they're going to provide us with more details, which we'll pass along to EFSEC staff and ORCA when we get that information. But just sharing.
Thank you. And so to clarify, it the testing contractor, it appears,
yes,
had the two confused.
The testing contractor or the lab they use swapped the samples. It is the initial findings.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding exactly what you were reporting to us there. Are there any other questions from council members? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sharon. Moving on to Columbia Generating Station and Washington Nuclear Projects 1 and 4, Mr. Schmidt.
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, EFSEC council and staff. For the record, this is Marshall Schmidt. I have 3 items to report for September. First off, the tritium investigation plan is still ongoing since the investigation plan was put into place in August of this year. We have not identified any levels of tritium above the lower limit of detection, which for our lab is 300 picocuries per liter. None of our samples have hit that or really even been close to it. Our last phase has been isolating the last of the 3 intake pipes to see if maybe there was a slug in the pipe we did not open. And the information here is a little outdated. I can say that the data we've seen since we isolated that pipe is in line with everything else. We have not found tritium above that lower limit of detection. So we're in the process of drafting the EFSEC required report on the investigation plan to submit. Second, on September 7th, we received the draft National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit and the permit fact sheet from EFSEC. So we have begun our facility review of those documents and expect to have comments back to EFSEC here in the near future. On September 27th, we were also able to provide a tour of the facility to the EFSEC site specialist and the permit writer, which is something we appreciated being able to do. Additionally, on September 7th, we submitted a letter to EFSEC and Ecology regarding the potential to rewire the runtime meters for 2 of our station emergency diesel generators. The technical evaluation for this work is still in progress, and we have noted the known discrepancy in runtime in our report that we submitted on September 29th. That concludes my updates. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from council members? Hearing none, thank you for your report, and we look forward to continuing updates. Thank you. Moving on to Columbia Solar Project, Mr. Hurd.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Chair Drew, council members, and EFSEC staff. This is Owen Hurd from Tuso Energy reporting on the Columbia Solar projects. Penstemon is online, as it's been for a while now. Camas, we finally achieved substantial completion on October 5th. After having several delays on that, we're now kind of beyond substantial completion. Utica is trailing behind. It's been most recently delayed due to some communications issues that PSE is having with interconnection. We're working to resolve those, hoping to have the kind of witness test where PSE will kind of be there to turn on the plant at the end of this month or early next month. So it's been a little bit of a moving target on the schedule just based on trying to resolve this issue. And then beyond that, we had our on-site meeting with WDFW and landowners regarding the planting plan, and I think reached general agreement on where the woody species will be planted. So we're just finalizing that revised plan, and then we expect planting and seeding to commence fairly shortly. Some of that is a little bit impacted by the Utica schedule because we need to get to substantial completion, so then we can remove the rocks that are on site before we do a lot of the planting. But anyway, that's moving forward, and it was a productive meeting. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Hurd?
This is Stacy Brewster. Mr. Hurd, can you let us know, do you have data on how much energy Penstemon is generating at this point?
I can get that. I don't have it offhand, but yeah, I can follow up. Should I follow up directly with you or with EFSEC staff, or?
Go ahead and follow up with EFSEC staff, and they'll share it with the council.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thanks. Now we will get our update on the Horse Heaven Wind Project.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council Chair Drew and council members. For the record, this is Amy Moon, EFSEC staff member. I'm providing the State Environmental Policy Act, or SEPA, update on the Horse Heaven Wind Project. EFSEC staff continued its work preparing the draft environmental impact statement, or draft EIS. We are focused on finalizing all resource topic sections, including final refinement of the proposed minimization and mitigation opportunities. We continue to work closely with our contractor Golder to compile the draft EIS, as well as prepare an executive summary and fact sheet. As mentioned at the September 20th council meeting, 30 days is the minimum required comment period. However, that's a comment period for the draft EIS. However, due to the timing of the draft EIS issuance, EFSEC is extending this by 15 days as allowed by Washington Administrative Code, or WAC 197.11.455, subpart 7, to allow the public time to review in light of the winter holidays. Does the council have any questions on that before I go further?
Any questions from council members? Go ahead, Ms. Moon.
Okay. We are also working to schedule EFSEC site tours of Horse Heaven in early November, but details regarding the logistics are still being finalized and more information will be forthcoming. That's my SEPA update. Any questions now?
Are there any questions?
Okay, so I also have an application extension request update.
Okay.
So if there are no further questions, I'd like to direct your attention to the extension request letter in your packet. EFSEC statute states in the revised Code of Washington, RCW 80.50.100, 805100, That the council shall report to the governor its recommendations as to the approval or rejection of an application for certification within 12 months of receipt by the council of such an application or such later time as is mutually agreed by the council and the applicant. So that's the quote from that RCW 80-5100. The application for site certification was received by EFSEC on February 8th of 2021. The 12-month recommendation for approval or rejection would have been due February 7th of 2022. However, the applicant submitted a letter dated January 7th, 2022, requesting an extension to December 8th, 2022. The council approved this extension at the January 18th, 2022 council meeting. Since that time, EFSEC received an additional extension request from the applicant dated September 27th of this year. The applicant requested that the processing time of the application be extended an additional 7 months to July 8th of 2023. This extension would allow time for the SEPA and adjudication process to occur for the proposed Horse Heaven Wind project. Being an action by the council, the request was opened for public comment prior to this meeting, and 6 comments were received. The comments received were primarily focused on the draft EIS issuance. As I mentioned previously, staff is committed to a 45-day comment period, which we believe addresses these concerns. With regards to the extension request before the council, staff recommends that the council approve this extension request as presented by the applicant. Are there any questions from the council members?
So this is for the Horse Heaven Council members. Are there any questions for the Horse Heaven from the Horse Heaven Council members at this point, which include all our regular council and a couple others? Mr. Brost and Mr. Sanderson. Questions? Okay, thank you. So then we will move on to the recommended action item. And again, it would be the 5 members of the regular council who will be voting on this because they are the ones of the Horse Heaven Council who are present at the meeting. The applicant, Scout Clean Energy, has requested an extension for the review of the application for site certification for the Horse Heaven Wind Farm project. Is there a motion to approve the Horse Heaven extension request to July 8th, 2023?
This is Kate Kelly. Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Eli Levitt, I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? I think it's clear that we have a period of time for the draft EIS and the adjudication ahead of us still, so that this is a reasonable request. Any other comments? All those in favor of the extension request, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
The motion is approved. Thank you all. We now will move to an update on the Goose Prairie solar project, and that is Ms. Hofgemeyer.
Apologies. Thank you, Chair Drew, and good afternoon, Council. EFSEC staff are working with the certificate holder and our contractors to review and refine pre-construction plans. And the certificate holder continues to keep staff updated with their anticipated construction schedule. The certificate holder recently submitted multiple pre-construction plans, including the initial site restoration plan, or ISRP, which staff are reviewing. This is one of the plans that will require council approval prior to the start of construction. EFSEC staff will notify the council once the ISRP is ready for the council to review and approve. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Hofgemeyer. And under our new proceedings, that would also then be public for the public to comment on before the meeting in which the council takes action. So as that comes forward for an action item, the public, it will be on our agenda, and the public will have an opportunity to comment in writing on that plan, which again, I know it, the letters, but please state the name of the plan again. The site restoration plan.
Initial site restoration plan.
Initial site restoration plan. So that would be the plan that talks about the end of the project and what happens at the conclusion of the operating of the project to restore the site. So members of the public who would be interested in it, look forward to that in the future. Are there any questions from council members? Okay, thank you. Badger Mountain Solar Energy Project. Ms.
Thank you.
Hoffmeyer.
Staff have been working with our contractor to prepare for drafting of the Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS. EFSEC is coordinating with our contractor to determine details such as the structure of the EIS as well as alternatives to be considered. Staff are also preparing a data request for the applicant in support of drafting the EIS. There are no other updates at this time. Are there any questions?
Did you say staff are preparing a data request?
Yes. Correct. Yes.
So when that data request goes out, it will be posted and will be public for the public to see that for your
Correct.
information. Any questions from council members? Okay, thank you, Ms. Hoffmeyer. And moving on to Whistling Ridge again.
Thank you.
You're still up.
EFSEC staff. EFSEC staff are waiting for the certificate holder to submit the remaining materials for the SCA amendment requests. However, there are no further updates at this time.
Okay. And then to High Top and Austria update, starting with the SEPA update and the MDNS, the Mitigated Determination of Non-Significance. Ms. Hoffmeyer.
Thank you. For the SEPA update, EFSEC issued a Mitigated Determination of Non-Significance, or MDNS, on October 1st, 2022. The 14-day comment period ran from October 1st through October 14th. During this time, staff received 4 comments on the MDNS. As a result of these comments, EFSEC is revising 2 changes to the MDNS. In mitigation number 10, EFSEC is revising the MDNS to read, prior to the start of construction, habitat restoration and mitigation plans would be developed in coordination with WDFW and EFSEC as described in the ASC to include 1, considerations of any potential setbacks as identified by WDFW or other micrositing options that may be feasible to further reduce the impacts to habitat connectivity. And then here's where the revision is. 2, revegetation of disturbed areas with a native seed mix, including the revegetation as a requirement is in response to the comments that we received. EFSEC is also including a new mitigation measure, a new mitigation number 11, to read, prior to the start of construction, the applicant will implement where feasible in coordination with EFSEC and WDFW, the raising of fences to allow for small animal passage. Due to the inclusion of a new mitigation measure, the following measures will need to be renumbered. Staff will issue the revised MDNS and the supplemental staff memo responding to comments by the end of this week. We just need a little bit of time for finalizing the documents. The council will receive these documents when they are distributed. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions about the SEPA update and the MDNS plus the changes, the amendments that'll be made due to the public comments? Okay, thank you. And now we will move to the land use consistency action item. Ms. Hoffmeyer.
Thank you. As hopefully you can all see on the screen, there is a draft land use order provided in your packets, prepared by Judge Bradley, EFSEC staff, and our attorney, John Thompson. This order was prepared for your review, and at this time, staff recommends the council approve the order deeming the projects consistent with local land use regulations.
Okay, there is the
Are
draft
there any questions?
order. Okay, I'm just wanting to get that one where I can read it better myself here. Oops. So are there any questions from council members on this item? There we go. We have seen the pieces of information that are going into this land use, finding of land use consistency throughout the process, beginning with the initial application and specifically the document from Yakima County, which does indicate that the project would be consistent with the land use, Yakima County's comprehensive plan and land use. So if you go to the findings, let's take a conclusions of law. Let's take a look at that, which is page 9. And just do a walkthrough of the conclusions of law. Number 1, the council has jurisdiction under RCW 8050.075 and Washington Administrative Code Chapter 463.43. 2, the council provided adequate notice to interested party and has adequate information to render a land use consistency decision. 3, under Yakima County Code Title 19, the facility meets definition of a power generating facility. Number 4, the proposed sites for the facility are on land in the agricultural zoning district under Yakima County Code. In the AG zoning district, power generating facilities are a type 3 use. 5, Yakima County determined the projects are consistent with Yakima County Code Title 19 and would be eligible for review and permitting under Yakima County conditional use processes and issued the applicant a certificate of zoning compliance. Number 6, the applicant has met its burden of proof of demonstrating that the sites are consistent and in compliance with Yakima County's comprehensive plan and applicable zoning ordinances as required by RCW 8050.075 sub 1. Therefore, the council orders, number 1, Cypress Creek Renewable LLC's request for finding of land use consistency is granted, consistent with RCW 8050.090 sub 2 and 463.26.110. And 2, the council will provide a means to receive information regarding site-specific conditions and criteria akin to what Yakima County would receive during a conditional land use hearing. So that is the essence of our action today. One question for staff. This was also open for public review. Did we receive any public comments on it?
No, we did not receive any comments on the draft land use order.
Thank you. Are there any comments from council members?
Chair, this is Kate Kelly. Not a comment, but a question. In this, under order and then number 2, where we say we'll provide a means to receive information, it's just, what does that mean exactly?
It's a public meeting. And it's where people are invited to comment on, I'm going to ask actually Mr. Thompson, since I'm going from the top of my head. And we have done this before. We did it with Goose Prairie project. So Mr. Thompson.
Right, that's correct. I don't have too much to add. I mean, it's the finding of land use consistency, as we were just discussing, is just a finding that a project of this type would be eligible to apply for a conditional use permit. So it's not permitted outright in the ag zone, but it requires a conditional use permit. So at this stage, the finding of consistency is just based on that eligibility. So there still needs to be an opportunity for the public to comment on whether the Yakima County's conditional use criteria are met for the project, or if there are conditions that need to be imposed to ensure that those conditional use criteria are met. So, and that's how the council has consistently dealt with situations where a conditional use permit would be required at the county. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, just a little bit more, Madam Chair, if you'll indulge.
Sure.
So as part of that process, I understand hearing from the public and how important that is, but do we also take into consideration whatever the county itself has to share in terms of what site-specific conditions might be?
Oh, yes. And my recollection is during Goose Prairie, our staff worked with the county staff quite closely in that process. Ms. Hofkemeyer, do you have anything to add there?
Not too much to add. The county would obviously be noticed of the meeting and welcome to attend, as well as coordinate with staff directly if they had any additional concerns or criteria that they had questions or concerns about as part of the review process.
And I would also add that the applicant has provided information in the land use consistency section of the application that does walk through that criteria from the applicant's perspective as well.
Correct. That can be found in attachment A to the application. You'll actually see 2 attachments, one for the High Top site and one for the Ostria site.
So really it's the council our job will then be to consider all of that information at during that whole application process, and when we get to that point, to determine whether there are additional mitigations that need to be made, or to consider the project in total.
Thank you all. That's very helpful.
Okay, thanks. Other questions? Okay, I will ask then if there is a motion to approve the council order for the High Top and Ostria projects with a finding of consistency with land use per RCW 80.50.090 sub 2 and WAC 463-26-110. So again, is there a motion to approve this order with a finding of consistency, land use consistency?
Stacy Brewster. I'll move that the council approve the order granting a finding of land use consistency.
Is there a second?
Kate Kelly, second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Chair Drew,
Chair-
this is Lenny Young. Should WAC be inserted in paragraph 47 prior to the numbers that start with 463?
Yes, thank you for that. That's just a technical error there.
Chair Drew, this is Sonia Bumpus. I did note that we had missed that abbreviation for the Washington Administrative Code. We can make that change for the final document.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion or comments? All those in favor of approving the council order, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we are, let's see, just close that document. Moving on to the discussion of expedited processing.
Thank you.
So what we are looking at here, go ahead, Ms. Hofkemeyer.
Oh, I was just going to give a little bit of background for the council.
Thank you.
As you may recall, at the July 19th council meeting, the council agreed to the request from the applicant to extend the expedited process decision to October 20th to allow time to complete the SEPA review. The two requirements to consider expedited process include consistency with local land use regulations, as well as a determination of non-significance or a mitigated determination of non-significance. So now that the NDNS has completed the comment period and with the land use order having been voted to be approved, staff would like the council to consider the request for expedited process.
And council members, again, following up on what Ms. Hofkemeyer just said, there are two criteria for expedited processing. One is land use consistency, which we just granted, and then the mitigated determination of non-significance, which has been determined not by the council, but by the council director, Ms. Bumpus, with a couple of changes that will, you've heard what those changes will be this week. And our process moving forward would be to direct the staff to prepare an order for the council's review in November, approving the Cypress Creek Renewables request granting expedited processing since the two criteria are met. Are there questions or comments on that?
Chair Drew, this is Lenny Young. I was slightly confused because the July letter seems to push in the opposite direction of the April letter, and almost to the point where the July letter seemed to almost withdraw the request for expedited processing and ask for more time. What's the relationship between those two requests? Is the second letter still consistent with the concept of expedited processing?
Ms. Hofkemeyer? Yes,
Thank
go ahead.
you. So the The second letter is in keeping with the first letter. The initial request for expedited process was received with the application on April 7th. The timeline in the EFSEC rules, I'm sorry, the exact WAC is escaping me. I believe it's 46343, provides a timeline of 120 days for the expedited process decision. So that decision would initially have needed to be made, I believe, on August 6th. Staff were not prepared to make a SEPA threshold determination at that time. We were still coordinating with our contracted agencies to get input. And so the July 8th letter was to extend that expedited process decision to allow staff sufficient time to complete our SEPA determination.
So staff's interpretation is that there is still a request for expedited processing on the table?
Correct.
Thank you.
Chair, this is Kate Kelly again. The expedited processing letter in our packet dated April 7th only mentions Austria Solar facility.
I believe with the application, I can double check, but I believe with the application, there is a letter for each site. So there is a letter with the application for the Austria Solar and a letter with the application for High Top Solar.
Chair, you're muted.
Thank you. Why don't we take a minute and confirm that?
I'm looking right now. Yes, there is a letter for each site, and those letters can be found on the EFSEC website on the project page.
Ms. Kelly, is that satisfactory?
It is. I'm still back to the previous question about the connection between the two letters and what we're being asked to take action on something right now or not.
We're being asked to direct the staff to prepare a draft order for our review for the November meeting, granting expedited processing. So our final action on expedited processing will actually come in November.
Even though the letter, the July 8th letter asked for an extension through this week, through October 20th.
Yes. So I'll ask the question, Ms. Bumpus or perhaps Mr. Thompson. Do we need to also have an extension letter from Cypress Creek Renewables?
Yeah, this is Sonia Bumpus. We did discuss that very question internally, and being that the two criteria are met for qualifying for expedited processing, we did not think we needed to request another extension just to carry us to November, when the draft order would have been reviewed and then, hopefully presumptively approved. John Thompson is here and can weigh in with anything additional, but that was discussed internally, and being that the MDNS is going to be completed, it's already gone out for public comment. The proposal has demonstrated that it meets those two qualifying criteria. We did not think that we needed to request another extension letter, but John, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I don't have anything to add. The deadline is for making a decision on a request for expedited processing is not statutory. It's self-imposed, if you will, in a EFSEC rule, and so which is one consideration. And then another is, as Ms. Bumpus was explaining, yeah, I think we have the information at this point before you for you to make a presumptive decision and then direct staff to prepare that that order. Technically, your vote would come at the next meeting, but we felt like that's compliance with the spirit of the rule.
So this is Lenny Young. Follow-up question on that. So for an order that we would be asked to vote on in November, what date would be specified in that order? Would it be October 20th, which at that time would be a date that would be 3 to 4 weeks in the past? Or would it be a current or future date with respect to the date of the November council meeting?
I can feel that. Yeah, there's no intention of sort of backdating or anything like that. I think it would be signed as of the date that I think Chair Drew would probably sign it as the practice. So yeah, it would be the date that it was actually signed.
So the order would have a date that would either be the same day or later than the council's November meeting?
Correct.
Okay.
This is a council action too, which again, the information has been prepared. We want time for the council, and then it will also, under the new statute, have an opportunity for the public to comment on that final action. So we want that to occur, but there isn't a lot of wiggle room, if you will, in this. There's no question that we've met the two criteria. The criteria are quite cut and dried in this particular action. So from that standpoint, I think what we want is to make sure the language in the order is appropriate for the action, but we have enough information to see that the two criteria have been met. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm just not sure about the continuing significance of the October 20 date mentioned in the July TRC letter.
Again, what I'm hearing from both Ms. Bumpus and Mr. Thompson is that's a council rule, not a statute. So we're in keeping with the date, not by signing the order, but by having the two pieces clearly met by that date, is
Okay.
what I hear them saying.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, a little bit confusing, I know. So other questions or comments? Or is there a motion to direct staff to prepare a draft order for the council's review, approving the Cypress Creek Renewables request granting expedited processing for the High Top and Ostria solar projects? Motion, please.
This is Kate Kelly. I move that we ask staff to prepare the order as described.
Thank you. Second?
This is Eli, I'll second.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments now that we have the action in front of us? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Watoma Solar Project. This is Ms. Hofkemeyer.
Yes, thank you. For the Watoma Solar Project, EFSEC staff continue to work with the applicant and our contractors to review the project. EFSEC sent a data request to the applicant to facilitate our review, which they're working on at this time. We are also working to schedule a site tour in early November and will provide details to the council and the public as logistics are finalized. Are there any questions?
The site tour will also be a site tour of, at the same time for the High Top and Austria projects. Is that true?
That, because of logistics, we may be able to you know, park near and sort of look at where the High Top and Austria sites are. But due to applicant availability and private landowner access concerns, we may not be taking the public and the council onto the High Top and Austria sites during that site visit.
As I remembered, the access isn't created yet either. When we drove past.
I think there's some dirt roads that go that direction. But I think at this time we're proposing to sort of point people in the general direction so that they can see where those sites will be,
yes.
And then actually visit the Watoma site.
Okay. Ms. Bumpus? Go ahead. You're on mute. Ms. Bumpus, did you want to add?
Oh, no, Chair Drew, I was just turning on my camera.
Okay.
But thank you for asking.
You popped onto the screen. I thought, oh, she must want to say something.
No, thank you for asking, though. No, I was just testing it to make sure
okay.
that it was working.
So yes, for the Watoma, we do have access to the site. For the High Top in Austria, we'll be looking at it across Highway 24 as I recall. When I drove past it recently, but we'll at least get the location of it so people can see. Is that right, Ms. Hofkemeyer?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. Now, Ms. Bumpus, we have the non-direct cost allocation, which you will be going over for the council.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Drew and council members. If it please the council, I have an update on the non-direct cost allocation for second quarter fiscal year 2023. This covers the non-direct cost allocation for the periods October 1, 2022 to December 31, 2022. So I'll just read off the percentages as I typically do, and let me know if you have any questions. For Kittitas Valley, we have 4%, Wild Horse 4%, Columbia Generating Station 22%, Columbia Solar 5%, WNP1 3%, Whistling Ridge 3%, Grays Harbor 1 and 2 8%, Chehalis 8%, Desert Claim 3%, and Goose Prairie 5%, Horse Heaven 15%, Badger Mountain 7%, Cypress Creek Renewables, this is a High Top and Austria 7%, and Watoma 6%. Are there any questions on the non-direct cost allocation update? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now for our good of the order, we do have new staff members who have come on board, and I'll ask Amy Hofkemeyer to introduce them.
Thank you. Yes, we do have 2 new staff on board. I would like to first introduce Sarah Randolph, who's joining us as one of our siting specialists, who will be overseeing primarily the compliance of our existing facilities.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here, and I'm glad to be part of the team.
There she is. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Ms. Randolph.
All right, and we also have joining us Sean Green, who we are stealing back from Florida, previously lived in Washington, and we're bringing him back to step into the position of the SEPA advisor for EFSEC staff.
Pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you and welcome to the team. So with that, that concludes our business for today, and the monthly meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your participation.